Hi, welcome back. In today's video, we'll be going over the toolbar, which is on the left side of your screen. There's a lot of useful things here, but at the same time, there's some things which you'll probably rarely use. I'll give you a brief overview of all the tools so you know they at least exist, and you can use them whenever you have to. I'll elaborate on the tools you'll actually need in separate videos. As a side note before I start, if you right-click on any of the icons that have little arrows beneath them, you'll open up a panel of tools related to that icon. I'll only be right-clicking on the icons that have useful additional tools. Alright, so starting off, here you have your Move tool, which you can use to move either layers or groups. And before you move anything, make sure you have Auto Select turned on, so you can automatically move layers or groups. With Layer Selection mode, you can move individual layers by just clicking and dragging on them. With Group Selection mode, you can move entire groups. So if I were to group all of these circle layers, I could just click and move that group. Here you have your Marquee Tools, which you can use to make geometric selections, like rectangles, squares, ellipses, and circles. I'll get in depth with these tools in a separate video. With the Rectangular Marquee tool, you can make rectangular selections. To deselect, press Ctrl D on your keyboard. And with the Elliptical Marquee tool, you can make elliptical selections. Don't worry about the other two Marquee tools, we won't ever use them. So with selections, you can do a variety of things that only apply to whatever you have selected. And before I elaborate, make sure you're aware of what layer you're working on. You don't want to make a selection change to one layer when you wanted that selection change for a different layer. Alright, so anyways, here's some examples of things you can do with selections. You can color within the confines of your selection. So choose a layer, make a selection, click on the brush tool, click on the foreground color swatch here to choose a color, like pink, and then brush over your selection. You'll notice that the color only applies within your selection. Even if I were to click way outside here, nothing would happen. And that's because your brush will only act within the selection. Another thing you can do with selections is delete a specific area. So if I click on this blue circle, make a selection for this half of the circle, and then press backspace, I'd only delete that specific part of the circle. Another thing I can do is make a cutout. So with my layer selected and a selection made, I could right click inside the selection and click on layer by cut, and that'll make a new layer from whatever I had selected. And lastly, you can make a layer mask from your selection. I'll elaborate in a separate video, but as a quick summary, a layer mask is how to hide everything in a photo except for a specific area. If I choose a layer, make a selection, and then click on Add Layer Mask here, you'll notice that everything I had selected will still be visible, and everything outside my selection is now hidden. So here's that selection box again, and here's how my layer looked like before the layer mask. So again, before and after. Everything outside the selection is now masked or hidden. Here you have your Lasso Tools, which you can use to make freehand selections. I'll get in depth with these tools in a separate video. With the Lasso tool, you draw an outline, and that makes the selection. With the Polygonal Lasso tool, you click to place these line segments, and then connect them to make a selection. And with the Magnetic Lasso tool, which I'll demonstrate with an actual photo. So with your layer selected, just click and drag your cursor along some subject, and then the tool will try to clip your outline along the edges of that subject. And this is done using Photoshop's color algorithm, which detects pixels of different colors and brightnesses and uses that information to help you with selections. So notice as I'm dragging my cursor along this guy's hair and now his ear and his neck, the outline is clipping along those unique colors. So to finish off your selection, you can connect the endpoints like this, or you could have just double clicked like this. Here you have the fast selection tools, which make selections using Photoshop's color-based algorithm. I'll get in depth with these tools in a separate video. With the object selection tool and a layer selected, you outline the general area some subject is in, and in Photoshop will try to make a selection of that subject. This is based on colors and how well your subject contrasts with the background. Here you have the quick selection tool, which you use to brush over to select similar colors. So as I'm brushing everything within this guy's blue jacket, a selection is only being made for his blue jacket. The selection cuts off at where it is in his blue jacket, like the green grass here or his skin color. If I want to finish the selection, I would just brush over his head, and I have a selection of this person now. And here you have the magic wand tool. You click once to select similar colors. So if I click on the white in his t-shirt like that, similar whites will be selected. If I click on the black in his hair, similar blacks will be selected. If I click on the white in the sky, similar whites will be selected. Here you have the crop tool, which you can use to crop your document. So just drag a corner and click on either the check icon to make the crop or the cancel icon to not make the crop. Here you have the frame tool, which we won't ever use, so I'll skip that. Here you have the eyedropper tool, which you can use to sample colors from your document. So just click some point and the color of that point will show up in your foreground color swatch. If I click on this guy's blue jacket, that blue color will show up here. If I click on the green turf, that color will show up here. If I click on the red uniform, that color will show up here. Here you have the spot healing brush, which you can use to remove marks and blemishes. So for example, if I wanted to remove this NFL patch, I could use the spot healing brush and brush over that. Photoshop will replace what I brushed over with similar content from the surrounding area. Here you have the brush tool, which you can use to paint something. The color of your brush tool will depend on your foreground color swatch here. So to change your color, just click on that and select whatever color you'd like. Also, make sure you know what layer you're brushing over. You don't want to accidentally permanently ruin a layer. Here you have the clone stamp tool, which you can use to clone pixels from a certain layer. I'll get in depth with this tool in a separate video. The clone stamp tool is useful for removing things from a photo. For example, if I want to remove this person, I could clone the background over him, like this. Imagine that, but like more meticulous and better. So to use the clone stamp tool, hold Alt on your keyboard, click on a specific point of a layer to reference as your starting point, and then start brushing to clone those pixels starting from that reference point. Here you have the history brush tool, which you can use to restore parts of an image to an earlier state. So for example, if I use the brush tool and I accidentally brushed over this layer, I could use the history brush tool to revert this layer back to its original form. Here you have the eraser tool, which you can use to erase from a layer. So with a layer selected, I could erase from it. Here you have the color fill tools, which you can use to fill a layer or selection with color. With the gradient tool, you can make gradients, and you can choose from either Photoshop's preset gradients, like the blues here or purples, or you can make your own custom gradient. To do that, set your foreground color and background color to the two colors you'd like in a gradient. So for example, if you want a blue and red gradient, just change your color swatches to blue and red. And then if you go to your basics folder, you'll find your custom gradient there. Just brush over a layer and you'll make a gradient. And with the paint bucket tool, you can fill an entire layer or selection with your foreground color. So I'll just demonstrate by making a new layer and then using the paint bucket tool. With my new layer selected, I'll click with the paint bucket tool and I'll fill the entire layer up with the foreground color. Here you have some photo editing tools, so blur tool, sharpen tool, and smudge tool. So blur tool, you can blur a layer. Sharpen tool, you can sharpen or increase the contrast of a layer. And smudge tool, you can smudge a layer. Here we have more photo editing tools, so dodge tool, that's going to allow you to brighten up a layer. Burn tool, it's going to allow you to darken a layer. And sponge tool, it's going to allow you to either desaturate or saturate a photo. So in desaturate mode, you can desaturate or remove color from a layer. And saturate, you can saturate or intensify the colors in a layer. Here you have the pen tools, which are actually very useful tools. You use the pen tools to create paths which are adjustable outlines. Those paths can then be turned into either selections, vector masks, or shapes. I'll get in depth with the pen tools in a separate video. So with the normal pen tool, you click to place these anchor points, which are connected by line segments. And you can either have straight line segments by just left clicking, or curved line segments by holding the left click and dragging your cursor. So just close off your path by connecting the endpoints, and then turn that into either a selection, vector mask, or shape. With the freeform pen tool, you can freely draw a path, like that. And with the curvature pen tool, you can easily make curved paths. You just click to place these anchor points, and those anchor points will connect to automatically form curves. You can then place more anchor points to fine-tune your curve. Unlike the normal pen tool, the curvature pen tool's anchor points will curve by default and not make straight lines. If you wanted to make straight lines, you could just double click on any of the anchor points, and then you have a straight line, like that. Here you have the type tool, which you can use to write something. So just click and type something in like sample text. You can then make adjustments to your fonts up here. So if you want to change the font, just highlight your text and select a font here. You can change your style here, so like italicized or bold or regular. You could change the font size here. Don't worry about that. You could change your alignment, like left align, center align, or right align. You can change the color here. And you can add any wrap effects here, like arcing the text or inflating your text or any other effect they have. Here you have the path modifying tools, which you can use to modify or move a path. So for example, if I made a path, I could either move or adjust it. With the path selection tool here, I could click and move this path. With the direct selection tool, I can move anchor points or adjust the line segments. So just double click on an anchor point and move that around. Or click on a line segment and move that around. Here you have the Shapes tools, which you can use to make shapes, like rectangles, rounded rectangles, ellipses, polygons, lines, or any custom shapes that Photoshop provides. I'll get in depth with these tools in a separate video. To make a shape, just click on one of these tools and just drag to however large you want your shape to be. You can make any changes to your shape here in the Properties panel. Here we have some document maneuvering tools, which allow you to move around or rotate your viewing mode. So with the hand tool, you can pan around your document. So first of all, make sure you're zoomed in enough. Otherwise, the hand tool will not work. So if I'm zoomed in enough, I can move around my document. But if I'm zoomed out, I can't use the hand tool. And here you have the Rotate View tool, which rotates your screen so you can look at things at a different perspective. This just changes how you look at your document. It doesn't impact your layers at all. If you want to reset your view, just click on Reset View here. Here you have the Zoom tool, which allows you to zoom in and out of your document. So if you want to zoom in, click on the plus magnifying glass here and click on your document. And if you want to zoom out, click on the minus magnifying glass and click on your document. A faster alternative to just clicking on this tool is just to hold Alt on your keyboard, then scroll in or scroll out to zoom. It's a lot more convenient that way. Here you have your color swatches, which are the same thing as the color swatches up here. If you click on this little two-sided arrow, you could switch your foreground and background colors, like that. A faster alternative is just pressing X on your keyboard. Here you have Edit in Quick Mask mode, which is a method for making very quick layer masks. Again, a layer mask is just a way to mask away or hide away parts of a layer so that only a specific part is visible. If you click on the Quick Mask icon or press Q, you'll notice that your color swatches change to black and white, and that whatever layer you click on will now be highlighted in red. To use Quick Mask mode, click on any layer, and then with black as your foreground color, brush over areas you'd like to mask. So for example, I'll just be trying to mask around the background around these two people. So I'll just brush over everything in red and leave those two people not brushed over. And then I'll press Q and you'll see that a selection will be made. So I'll just click back to that photo layer and click Add Layer Mask, and now that's the only part that will be unmasked. Whatever was brushed over in red is now masked. And finally, we have screen modes, which are different ways of displaying your document. So with standard screen mode, that's your default viewing mode, nothing special about this. You have full screen mode with menu bar, which will remove your taskbar down here and your document panel. So if I click on that, you'll see that the taskbar is gone now, and also the document panel. A useful thing about this mode is that you can pan around without having to be zoomed in. So with the standard screen mode, you have to be really zoomed in order to pan around your document. But with full screen mode without menu bar, you could be really zoomed out and you can still pan around. And lastly, you have full screen mode, which will only display your document. So that's everything in your toolbar.